Mr. and Mrs. Movie fans, listen up. I could go on right now about all the beautiful people and all the not-so-beautiful murder in this motion picture, but you know that we are going to talk about and rave about the star's attractiveness and all the killing they do later. So right now, let's focus on Sparkplug Coffee. Our distinguished sponsor offers premium quality coffee, which, once you do the brewing thing, will be the best you've ever made. Being able to order online proves it's convenient, but it's also pretty affordable. And it's eons better than takeout. Man, they'll even deliver your packages right to your door. And the shipping is free if your address is in Canada. After you discover your new favorite, you're going to want to keep getting that one. So join the Autopilot Coffee Club. You can control how often your shipments come, and you can pause or cancel anytime you might need to. So let those fingers do this. Type out sparkplug.coffee/HYES. You can take advantage of the 20% discount by using our HYES promo code. Do it, you sexy mercenaries. Well, it's time to start talking about Brangelina. Bev, cue that music, man.
And action! Have you ever seen
Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Hi, movie monsters, and thank you plenty for downloading the 680th episode of this Classic Movies podcast that's known as Have You Ever Seen? Don't put out a hit on us if we ruin the surprises in this film, because we always spoil what we discuss. The dog agrees. Our new foster dog, Taylor, we think named after Taylor Swift. You have been warned about those spoilers. I'm the Weisenheimer who could never pull the trigger to kill his wife, even if she was trying to kill me, Mr. Ryan Ellis. And here is that wife, the lady who's murdered 312 people, but some were two at a time, Mrs. Bev.
That's me.
All right, the coming attractions opinion question for this week's film. Angelina Jolie is obviously a major star, and she's been in a lot of big hits, although we've never covered her until right today, and that's one reason why we picked this movie to start with. But the critics have often pooped on her output. She has more splats on Rotten Tomatoes than she does fresh ratings. Which is your favorite of the splats for Angelina Jolie?
This was a no-brainer for me. I was very surprised to see that Girl Interrupted got a splat.
I was surprised to see that too. Not my favorite, but that's a good choice.
It's not my favorite either, but it's a good movie.
Not my favorite of her splats, I mean.
What's your favorite?
That's a good one. My choice is Pushing Tin.
Pushing Tin?
Which I haven't seen in a long time. It's only at 48%. And I absolutely, even like the first Tomb Raider, at least a little more than it appears anyone else did, it's at 28% freshness on Rotten Tomatoes.
Man.
She's so well cast. The second one is dumb, although she does punch a shark. And I loved that moment when I saw it in the theater. It's so dumb, but I did like that in the second one. The first one's got Daniel Craig, before we knew who he was, really. And she's so well cast in an English role and the video game. I thought she was good in that movie. It's not a good movie. I thought she was good, at least. The dog agrees. Okay, the beginning of Brangelina was released by 20th Century Fox 20 years ago on June 10th, 2005. It opened number 1 and stayed in the top 5 for about a month. But the movie wasn't actually a big hit domestically because it cost so much to make. The studio shelled out a lot to pay for the 2 stars and all those explosions. But figuring worldwide grosses, where the movie made more than 4 times what it cost to produce, and yeah, Fox was able to brag that they brought in a barrel full of buckaroos. But Bev, this action comedy is 20 years older than when it hit theaters, so bring us up to speed on the storyline by giving us the skinny on Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt are Jane and John Smith, a bored married couple on each other's last nerves. But both of the Smiths are keeping secrets. They're both high-powered assassins working for competing agencies. While they may not know about each other, their bosses figure it out and assign them to kill one another. Many explosions and long, drawn-out fights follow, but the Smiths are equally matched and, more importantly, they just can't pull the trigger on one another. It's at this moment that sparks fly again, and their marriage is reignited with passion, finally getting to know each other for real. John and Jane then team up to take out the clients who turn them against each other, which apparently just translates to killing a bunch of henchmen who are apparently also in love with them because they miss 100% of the shots that they do take.
They're worse than stormtroopers.
Honest to God. And apparently the cabal of underground assassins is no match for the Smiths' powerful sexual chemistry, because that's the end of that.
Yeah, they do not come after them again. Or, in a nutshell, just poison their food.
Honestly.
Or gas them when they're asleep, because they figured out, meaning the bosses, before John and Jane know who each other is, or that they're under attack by these agencies. They have these normal lives. We see it plenty of times. They go to bed in a normal way, the way we do. Well, I go to bed later than you, whatever. They have a normal life, generally speaking. They each think they have boring jobs. You could kill them so many ways that would cost next to nothing.
Honestly.
And it would have worked. Even as good as they are, it would have worked. But there'd be no movie if you did it that way. Okay, the Rotten Tomatoes numbers on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Barely a fresh tomato, but it did make it. 60%. 125 fresh reviews, 84 rotten. The audiences, though, even though they like this movie, worldwide anyway, quite a bit, only 58%, so a bit of a splat there. Go is the director Doug Liman's highest rated film so far. Wow. He's got a few as producers that are highest rated.
Born Identity?
Go is a little higher, yeah. I didn't see what Born was for a rating, but Go is the highest as a director. 12 Years a Slave is number one for Pitt as an actor. His producing credits, I believe he has a few that are higher rated. That's highly rated, obviously, but that's number one I saw for him. And the Kung Fu Panda films for Angelina Jolie, she's Tigress in those. I think all those as an actress rate higher than anything else other than Gia, but that's a TV movie, so it doesn't count. And I already said, her Rotten Tomatoes numbers are not that great, generally speaking. Maria Bello and Scott Bakula did a Mr. and Mrs. Smith series in the 90s. I don't remember that at all. Of course, True Lies, there's a bit of a connection to that. This was starting to be written by Simon Kinberg back in the 90s. I think he saw True Lies and said, I can make a movie where they're both secret agents and they don't know about each other because, of course, in that movie, Schwarzenegger is the one that Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't know about being an agent. Alfred Hitchcock did a Mr. and Mrs. Smith movie in 1941, unconnected to this entirely. It's just a rom-com, I think. And that's at 65%, so a fresh tomato. And then, of course, we saw this maybe 2 years ago, whatever it was.
The TV
last
show?
year. The TV series with Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, and that's at 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So easily the most popular of all these Mr. and Mrs. various titles.
They take it in a pretty different direction, but it is about a married couple of assassins.
But Pitt and Jolie, John and Jane, were in love at one time, not knowing what they actually do for a living.
Yeah. So there's a lot of differences of the TV show, which is better than this.
I liked it. This is more fun, though. This was 10th at the 2005 U.S. box office. The Longest Yard was 12th. Sin City was 32nd. And Brokeback Mountain was 83rd. We've covered all of those. This was 7th worldwide, though, so these two names, I guess, is a big part of that. This was nominated for something like 18 awards, but no Oscar nominations. But here's something. The poster, I think, should have won an award. It's one of the sexiest posters I've ever seen. The two of them standing there, him in a suit, her in a dress, him holding a gun, her strapped to her leg. Wow, and she is gorgeous in this, as is he, for that matter.
Yeah, pretty iconic image.
Her hair is flawless, whether it's a wig or not. Okay, so we've never covered Jolie before. We chose this because we knew we'd have fun with it, at the very least, even if we didn't love it. I guess we didn't love it, but I at least liked it, and they're a lot of fun together in this movie that birthed their relationship. I'm sure that's going to come up later on. But what'd you think of Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
So I remember this movie being dumb, but it is dumber than I remember. The plot is ludicrous. Ludicrous.
He fixed the cable?
He fixed the cable. It really is just a series of lazy excuses to see sexy people with fun gadgets getting in gunfights and then getting it on. I probably underestimated just how invested I was back then in the whole Brangelina scandal and how much that added to my enjoyment of this movie. It was the most A-list, salacious celebrity gossip, and I was very into it. And I still will give Doug Liman credit where it's due. He can just make the most watchable, fun films. He makes it easy for you to just turn your brain off and indulge. Is it stupid? Of course. Who cares? It's sexy, it's fun, and it's always moving on to the next scene. He has such a gift for that.
You notice how you use stars, too, because Matt Damon and Born Identity, and we covered Edge of Tomorrow as well. Those are the two films that Liman directed that we've covered before. Edge of Tomorrow, you've got two stars, Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. And that's a great star vehicle for Cruise, but not being typically Tom Cruise, especially at that point where he's a loser through most of that film.
Yeah, he's so competent usually, and then in Edge of Tomorrow, the point is his incompetence that he has to learn.
These guys are so competent, but then they make Jolie's character, Jane, be even more competent than John is, really, in a way. Pitt, of course, because he does so often, has a lot of fun with this. He's pretty funny in this movie. She plays it dead straight. She's, of course, the straight woman, not so much straight man. But then she has that moment that I'm not sure very many other actresses could have pulled off when she snaps that guy's neck. So the night she's on a job where she kills a guy, and he's on a job where he kills people at that poker game. Mm-hmm. But when she rappels down using her purse, the handles of the purse ends up being a rappel thing, and she goes down to the street. I cannot see, well, for example, and we'll get into the scandal right now if you want to, Jennifer Aniston, Brad Pitt's wife, who I like, who's been funny and good in a lot of things. She did a lot of serious stuff around this point, actually, around the early 2000s, coming off of Friends. I guess Friends
like
had just ended. Yeah, and she, of course, has been funny in a lot of things. She was in a lot of great comedies. She's very talented. But I can't see her, Julia Roberts, maybe Halle Berry, pulling off that rappelling down, being so cool. I'll take that cab, please.
You're right. It's an incredible gift that she has that not a lot of actors could pull off. Speaking of movies like this, we just watched Black Bag. Kate Blanchett could pull that off. I think Charlize Theron could pull that off. There's something to be said for actors who really have that physicality. And Angelina Jolie, 100%.
Of those two, Theron, yeah.
You know, think of her as an athlete, but she has so much control over her body.
Look at Salt.
Yeah, she
And
makes
Wanted.
these things look... Yeah, that's right, yeah. Oh, I like Wanted a lot, too, actually. She can make these things look really easy. No matter what she's asked to do. She's not a person who's, I'm sure, accustomed to rappelling off buildings with her purse, but she makes it look like she's done it 1,000 times before. And
of course, Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Talk about action films, yeah. And she was very big as far as making these successful films around this time frame, too. All right, so the scandal. Let's get into that right now. So Pitt and Aniston have been married for a while. They seem like they're truly in love. But he meets Angelina Jolie on this movie, and they fall in love. I think they got together on the set during the shooting, and then, of course, they were together for a long time until that broke up. I used to hate, by the way, the Brangelina and Bennifer, what do you call them? What's that word we used? What do you call it? Portmanteau. But I've used it for some of our family and friends, people, the couples. Pam and Andrew are your sister and my brother-in-law, your brother-in-law too. We call them Pam Drew. So because I did that, I like it more now than I did 20 years ago.
Like when it works, it works.
And Brangelina might be the most famous one of all time. So anyway, go ahead. Your thoughts on the scandal. Because you said when we chose this movie a month or two ago, we decided to do this. You wanted to talk about that specifically, so...
Brad Pitt at the time was probably the biggest star in Hollywood.
Certainly one of.
Jennifer Aniston was the star of the biggest, most popular sitcom of the 90s, I guess, up there. She was a huge, huge star. But also, as much as she is, of course, really beautiful and really talented, there was something about them getting together that felt a little like...
There are a couple.
There are a couple. Women look at Jennifer Aniston and she is really beautiful, but she's not beautiful the way Angelina Jolie is. She's a more, I don't know, accessible
she
kind
could be
of
our
beautiful.
Friend.
She could be our friend. So it felt like our friend was marrying this big hot movie star. It's like, oh man, I think there was people just rooting for that relationship, and they seem so sweet. You hear about their wedding. Oh, and her wedding vows, she's promised to always make those banana smoothies he likes. All these little details.
He was on her show.
Yeah, that's right. So they were so cute and everybody just rooted for them. And Angelina Jolie already had this reputation of a man-eater. She had been married twice before to Johnny Lee... Miller, thank you. And then, I don't know if she left him or if she was single when she stole Billy Bob Thornton from Laura Dern. And then he left her for Angelina.
I think they met on Pushing 10, by the way.
There was all that stuff about her wearing his blood around her neck and then kissed her brother
When she won the Oscar. Yeah.
She just had this crazy reputation of a bad girl, but she's ethereal beauty. God, she is so beautiful.
Especially here.
Intense. Her face is just 1 in a billion. So for him to leave the girl next door that we were all rooting for this vampish... incredible, intimidating person who also already had a pretty questionable reputation. What a scandal. Sometimes celebrity gossip, you can just sink your teeth right into it and have so much fun, and this was definitely it. For anybody who's young, listening, or wasn't paying attention at the time, people had shirts made. There was Team Aniston shirts, and you could see people wearing them all over the city. Everybody was talking about it. It was such huge news. And then Brad and Angelina did a pretty good job of keeping it tight-lipped. They knew what was going on, and everybody knew what was going on. A few pictures did get out of them together. So a lot of people tuned into this movie because we were so curious about it, and they were so tight-lipped about what was happening. They didn't come out for years. I think they had kids together before they publicly announced that they were even a couple and ever did red carpet stuff together.
Well, they're both at the 2009, I guess, when the actual show happened, Oscars, because he was nominated for Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and she was nominated for Changeling. I think that was the year she was up for that. And I'm pretty sure they were there together. Of course, they were there for that infamous photo that Ellen DeGeneres... But that was many years later. That was the 2013 Oscars. The thing I don't know much about, and I think I'm one of those people, I know I'm the guy, so I'm terrible for doing this, but I've always wanted to like him. He seems like, for a huge star, most of the time, generally speaking, somebody with his head on his shoulders, like Damon is, like Clooney. The Ocean's 11 trio all seem like 4 big stars, for the most part, pretty decent people. That proviso is important. I think that's probably important with Hanks. I love Hanks, but is he a normal person? Probably not. He's been a movie star for 50 years, 40 years, over 40 years, I guess it's been. But Pitt's somebody I wanted to like, and then you find out that he was probably abusive with his wife and with his kids, and I didn't know that until fairly recently because I didn't want to know that. I guess I didn't follow the story.
Yeah. I think part of the reason that it's harder to watch this movie now is because I just don't like him as much. The sheen of his star has gone down.
So how did you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and enjoy it as much as we both did, considering his character has the arc of having maybe killed his wife?
Definitely killed his wife because in the novelization of the movie, it's made explicit. It bothers me. I enjoy that movie less because I find it harder to like him, and I know he's an actor and he's playing a part, but likability matters. I really didn't like the story that he killed his wife.
Seemed unnecessary.
It's completely unnecessary, and it's almost played like, isn't she a bitch? Aren't you glad that he killed her? That scene, the way it plays out, makes me deeply uncomfortable. And now watching this movie, I'm not saying he's a wife beater in the movie. They're trying to kill each other.
He never punches her on camera.
He just slammed the back of her head against the wall, which is exactly what he was accused of doing to her in reality.
Many years later, yes.
So, yeah, it makes it harder to enjoy the film.
Showing somebody punch a woman on camera is a lot different than, even if it's a worse injury.
They do it wisely. You hear him punch her off screen.
Yeah.
She's been beating the hell out of him. It's justified.
And she's
trying to kill each other.
He thinks he's going to kill him, so
yeah. So
it's understandable.
It's not a domestic in this situation.
Even though it is, though, too. That's the funny thing.
So much of this movie relies on their star power and his likability. You and I have different tolerances for being able to leave that stuff at the door when it comes to watching people in movies. It's not fun for me to watch it. If you enjoy it, if it doesn't bother you, cool. That doesn't make you a bad person. I'm not judging you. I don't care. No, I did have fun watching it. I think part of the reason I couldn't turn my brain off and just enjoy it is because the joy of watching Brad Pitt is gone for me. I find him annoying now in a way that I never did.
One more thing about her, by the way, that I didn't, maybe none of us knew. I forget when this started that we found out. But I wasn't her biggest fan because of all the stuff before she even met Brad, because she was pretty annoying with the Billy Bob stuff, vials of blood, and we take knives in bed together. And the media is the problem here more than the people. Granted, they won't stop, but then we're buying it. But I did find her a little bit too much for a long time there. But then when I found out, whenever that was, that she was made a Goodwill ambassador by the UN, I don't know much about the UN. I didn't then, especially when I was not even 30 years old, but I thought, they don't just do that because you're a big name star like Angelina Jolie is. You have to earn that. And of course, we found out since adopting all the kids that they both adopted. She had some before she even met him. For the most part, I think she's a pretty good person. Through all of her faults, she was so young, too, in the early 2000s, mid-2000s. That's part of it. She's about my age, so she wasn't even 30 years old. But when I found out about that, I thought, she must be far more like a Audrey Hepburn when it comes to caring about people and actually doing something about it if the UN would do that for her. So that's an important thing, too.
It would be kind of naive to think nobody did charity to clean up their image if they were...
The UN, though.
I guess. They would just glom onto her star power. Plus, she is a very talented actress. I'm sure that she could fake her way through.
Maybe.
I'm not even saying that she's not for real. In the same way that you say, God, Brad Pitt just seemed like a cool guy. All those Ocean's 11 guys, they just seem like such cool guys. Yeah, they very well may be, but they are all actors.
Yeah.
For us to say, well, the UN was happy to take advantage of her star power to draw attention, and it really worked. I wasn't even aware of that program. Lots of people have been ambassadors. I think Drew Barrymore was one. What's her name? She played Hermione.
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson. Lots of celebrities. I think it's almost always women.
But I wouldn't have expected this person who seems so inconsequential about caring about the world to actually be that person, is what I guess I'm saying. So I've always wanted to like her.
She had a reputation to clean up, too, at that point. She had taken it too far, so then she made this dramatic left turn. Another thing that I think made her really interesting to the press is that she went from being this wild child to suddenly diving headfirst into charity and working with the UN and going as far as to adopt one of the children that she met there.
Well, shouldn't have been mocked because at the very least she was giving people a better life. She wasn't stealing these kids from Africa or wherever else she adopted them from. She was adopting kids to make their lives better, and they would be so much better with a big movie star. If she was stealing them from somebody, that'd be a different story. She wasn't doing that.
But that's what people said about her at the time. People really love to hate on her.
Because they're dumb. So that's the controversy with the two of them. Let's get back to the story. What it was in the podcast here. So the movie opens and then closes, I guess fittingly, with the couple's therapy. They've been married for 6 years, or is it 5 years? There's that graphic that says the same thing.
That joke is pretty good. They keep coming back to that 5 or 6 years later.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And there's disagreements about the marriage, how often they've had sex. At the end, he puts up his hands, what's like 8 times a week, or is it 10 times a week they're having sex now? So everything's fine. Although, why are they alive? So let's talk about that. They were contracted to be killed by each of their agencies. As good as they are, they're supposed to die. They didn't. They killed a lot of other people in expensive operations. Somebody's got to cover up that warehouse, that department store, I should say, got obliterated, and all these dead bodies have to be dealt with. But then the next scene after that, the two of them, and that is a cool scene, granted, them standing back to back. We've seen that in John Woo, I guess, and other action films. Really cool. It's well done. It's funny. They wear the suits over their bulletproof vests, really for no reason, because they dress up in their bulletproof vests, but then they put on the suits and they can look cool. I guess we're supposed to laugh at that. It was charming, I guess. But then the suits get shredded and they take them back off and they're back in the bulletproof vest. But they live through that, and the next shot is back in therapy. Everything's great. Cut to black.
They don't solve the problem.
At all.
There's this whole setup about how...
I forgot that. I haven't seen this movie in a while. I forgot that it is so not finished.
And they have the whole elaborate thing where they cast Adam Brody to be this bizarre character. Is this his operation? He's just... What is
He's
happening?
the bait.
I think they just cast him to wisecrack. And then he just goes away.
Was it the OC he was on at this point that was
No,
made
it's
him big?
oh yeah, it was the OC, wasn't it? It was the OC. He's great. I love Adam Brody, but I'm not sure what the point is of his character at all. It's all to set up this elaborate plot that they just don't resolve. They go on this shooting spree, and then it just goes to white, and then they're in their marriage counseling. And I'm like, did you run out of money?
Maybe that's it. Directed by Doug Liman, movie's over. Well, what did I just see recently? One of the big releases. Oh, I can't remember what it was. But I came home and told you what I thought about the movie. And I related the story about The Simpsons where, I think it's one of the biblical ones. So the Simpsons will do a thing where they have 3 different stories, but it's about the Bible in that case. And Ralph comes back to life somehow. And somebody says, we thought you died. Nope. And they don't explain anything beyond that. A, it's a cartoon. B, it's a trilogy of stories. C, it can be silly because it's Ralph. But that's what this is. And whatever that movie I recently saw, I was saying, oh, Jurassic World Rebirth. That's what it was. I won't give away who or how it happened, who it was, how it happened. But something at the end of that, the guy should have said, we thought you were dead. Nope.
Nope.
Because they should have been dead. And their bosses should not stop trying to kill them. They should have gassed them earlier or poisoned the food earlier. But I guess they just go on. Makes no sense at all. But if they went cartoony and went to the Wile E. Coyote or The Simpsons and tried to be that silly, I think Doug Liman does a great job of managing the tone. And I think mostly he does because the movie is funny. Pitt especially is funny in this, and Vince Vaughn too. Jolie's got to be the straight woman. But then again, maybe he didn't manage it that well if it isn't so over the top that they could just mow down all these people and then just basically go and walk out and say, no, we're fine.
And they mow down henchmen. You know, it's like a video game. You don't just kill all the ghouls. You got to kill the big boss. That's just screenwriting.
And who are the 2 big bosses? At least on voiceover only, by the way. Keith David is her boss, and Angela Bassett is Brad Pitt's boss. But both only in voiceover.
And I guess they just forgave them. They were like,
oh, well.
Gosh, it's fine. They even have a scene where they talk about how they each have their little escape plans. Well, if I had to make a run for it, I've got this boat, I can do this, I've got this place I can go.
Maybe they did, but they still went to the therapist.
Well, that's just it. I love that
Is he on Zoom?
gag.
Remember they're on Zoom.
They would have done it on Zoom. It would have made more sense. But then there's also a party that says, would they be happy if they had to make a run for it and chill on a beach? They love their job.
She especially.
This is something that they talk about in Kill Bill. Could you actually give it up and make a run for it and just have a normal life? Absolutely not. It would never work. These people could never have a normal life. But I don't know why they're alive at all.
Well, she's the one, I think, that even wants this more than he does. So what about the whole thing behind this being such a boring existence together, despite the mansion and the fact that they supposedly have these really good jobs? I'm going to cover next week Revolutionary Road, where DiCaprio has this pretty good job and they live a really good life, but it's also a depressing story because they're actually living lives of quiet desperation. There's something going on here, too, only this is more funny about it. But it's also the True Lies thing. Arnold plays this boring computer guy with Jamie Lee Curtis. She has no idea he's been a secret agent the whole time, obviously his whole life. And then Pitt is playing, is it computers he works in too? But whatever it is he supposedly does. Or is it?
Construction,
okay, something. With Vince Vaughn. Mm-hmm. But they're both actually hitmen. You can never keep that secret from your wife that long, I don't think. My computer's roaring, by the way. But what about the boring life in the mansion? It could be funnier, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here.
The marriage is falling apart because neither of them even really know each other.
Yeah.
They're lying to each other all the time, and there's just like a resentment of everything they have to do to make this marriage work, to keep the secret and have their private lives. They reignite their passion because they finally get to know each other for real. That's what's so sexy about it. And they're telling their stories. Oh, these are my injuries. Oh, that was your job.
That's during the chase on the highway.
No. They have the fight in the house.
Well,
and
true
then
that,
they
too.
finally cave in and say, well, we can't kill each other. And then they have sex. And
Intense sex.
Yeah.
Which was not shown because it's not an R-rated movie.
Mm-hmm. And then you see them on the floor sharing all their stories that they never got to share with each other.
But then they really reveal what's going on when they have the chase on the highway, especially him. She's critiquing everything he does. He's really good. He's outstanding. She's even better than he is.
Interesting choices the script makes is they're terrible together. At the end, yeah, of course, they're shooting together and it's fine. But when they're in the minivan, they're at odds constantly. Their styles don't jive with each other whatsoever.
And they're also sent to that desert, though, at that point, to kill each other, according to Dan's, the Adam Brody character. She did shoot him, hit him with a bullet right in the chest, bulletproof vest or not. It would really hurt.
You break a rib.
Bulletproof vests will stop you from dying. Maybe not always, but generally speaking, you won't die. But you're going to be badly hurt rather than fall to the ground, and then get right back up again.
When they're in the department store at the end.
She throws a knife in his leg. He no-sells it.
Yeah. You can see her vest has over a dozen bullets in it.
And she's little.
You would not be getting up from that.
He's not Jack Reacher or Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, but she's so small, and she just completely no-sells everything. But she also throws a knife, or no, maybe one of them does. Anyway, he gets a knife in the leg, and nothing. Doesn't even pretend, which could work better.
He shakes it off.
I'm actually liking the movie less as I point this out, because I wrote all this stuff down, and we talked about it a little bit when the movie ended, but now that I'm saying it out loud to you in this podcast, that could be so much funnier if you're just going to admit that you are making Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner, but the two of them are teaming up, or Bugs Bunny and somebody are teaming up, because that's dumb. It's fairly realistic, considering the dumbness.
If you're going to make it funny, you would have to cast a Jennifer Aniston instead of Angelina Jolie, because I don't think she can do comedy. That is her weakness.
Okay, fair enough.
You said Aniston never could pull off the smoothness, that swagger that
Jolie can't do
But Jolie could never do the comedy that Aniston does. She's such a great comic actress.
Even Kung Fu Panda I mentioned before is a funny movie. All those are funny movies.
But she's the straight man.
But she's straight in that. It's Jack Black and Hoffman, and especially Jack Black, that are funny.
And I don't think that she diminishes the comedy here. It's good. You need a straight man. She's really excellent at it. Yeah, there's some missed opportunities here, and we're nitpicking it. I think if you're just looking for a fun movie to watch, something where you can turn your brain off and be so entertained, and you don't want to look at your phone when you're watching this movie. Liman
good pace. Very good at pacing.
Very good at pacing, and as much as we're like, wow, that ending doesn't make any sense, I don't really remember that bothering me back in the day when I liked this movie, because does it need to make sense? Do we need the plot to fill all the holes? No. Speaking of filling holes, we need something else from this movie. We need to see these two sexy people fall in love with each other again and have this incredible leap off the screen chemistry that they have.
Do.
It's just the entertainment factor, which is something that I always say this, but it is an underrated skill for a director or a team to have when you're making a movie. This movie's 20 years old now, and it's such a lost art. I would take economy of story over a perfect clarification of every single detail and making sure that you tie up all the loose ends. Economy of story wins all the time because emotionally it does make sense. So the story, the plot, it's stupid. But emotionally, I think it actually tells a great story of them being...
Of the marriage.
Of the marriage, exactly. Of them falling in love when they meet, being pushed apart by their lies, and then coming back together and igniting this whole new exciting thing, and then fully becoming a team. So if emotionally you're telling that story properly, sure, we can nitpick the details, and it's kind of frustrating. It makes you roll your eyes, and it would be so much a better movie if the plot made sense, but I think it does the audience justice of tying that up properly.
Also, she stole all his money and all his weapons, and I guess maybe her agency would have them, not her specifically. Kerry Washington maybe would have taken command of all that stuff. I don't know. But if she somehow found a way to keep at least some of that stuff, that's how they could live monetarily, because their house is gone, and he has nothing because she stole it all.
They probably have accounts in Switzerland, Cayman Islands, or whatever. They're rich. If they have that house with their legit money, then you know they must have stashes everywhere. And they're planners. They've already talked about it. They have a plan in place for needing to run. And I'm sure that would include lots of money.
And William Fichtner, he's the voice, by the way, of the therapist. So you got Fichtner, Bassett, and Keith David. Pretty big names, but voiceover only roles. That is one of the selling points of the movie, though, is Pitt and Jolie sitting there together in a therapist office. And the movie would have been sold as A, an action movie, B, as a comedy, and C, as... these two are married, and they're going to fight each other. So it's X versus Sever, which did not really pay off. That's not a good action movie. Roger Ebert especially hated that movie. But it's supposed to be that these two, I think it's Banderas and Lucy Liu, are X and Sever. But most of that movie is X and Sever teaming up, which is what this is too. We could talk more about the plot, but the movie really didn't, so maybe we could skip all past that stuff. I do want to ask one question, though, before we move on to the cast. Not ask a question, sorry. I want to make a point, which is the Secret Lives thing. Because we've joked for years, especially about our long-dead dog, Fox, who we think, in his nothing brain, his feather-headed brain, thought that when I went to work, probably you too, but when I went to work at night and didn't come back for all those hours, he thought I was just wandering the neighborhood and I was peeing on things like he would do.
Yeah, exactly. Those are jokes. Where do you think Fox thinks we go when we go to work? Oh, he probably just thinks we're walking around the block and peeing on things.
Yeah.
Where else would he think that we go?
We put our wedding rings back on when we get, like Pitt does in the car.
Yeah.
So anyway, it reminded me of that a little bit, that each of them is Fox, although it's funny that they're both doing the same thing, because in True Lies, it's one person that doesn't realize her husband is this incredible Rambo, as she says, this secret agent, but they both are here.
True Lies is a great example. We rewatched that
We did watch that recently, yeah. Also on Disney+.
It nails it. It gets the emotional through line of the couple coming apart, coming back together.
It's one of the best things Arnold's done, or she's done, Jamie Lee Curtis has done, and it's one of the more underrated James Cameron movies.
Yeah, they both are really funny. It plays the comedy perfectly, but also the plot is airtight. I think it's silly, it's stupid,
it's not airtight.
It's stupid, but the plot pays off.
Very rewatchable movie, too, and Tom
God,
Arnold has never been better than he was in that movie. So Brad Pitt now, our 10th time we've covered this guy, plus 2 more on scoring at the movies. That's a lot of films. There'll probably be more we cover. This man's been in so many big hits. And F1, as we record this, is still doing well at the box office, especially worldwide. I saw it in IMAX. It's an impressive production. So we covered him in Thelma and Louise, Interview with the Vampire, 7, 12 Monkeys. He has a cameo in Being John Malkovich, so I'm including that. Maybe that's a bit of a BS thing to do, but okay, fine. Fight Club, Inglourious Bastards, Buongiorno, 12 Years a Slave, which he produced and won an Oscar for, of course, and then won the Supporting Actor Oscar for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And then he's also in Snatch and Moneyball, which Chris and I covered on scoring at the movies. Those two alone, Snatch and Moneyball. If he did nothing else and you just watch this actor do those two things, that's the same guy. Mm. So is he the greatest actor of all time? No, but is he one of the great stars of all time? Yes. And when you look at all those roles, what a diversity that is.
He is a great actor, and watching this movie is a reminder. We used to have real movie stars. I cannot think of 2 young or youngish actors who could really do this, really command the screen in this way. It's such a strange thing that we've lost, but he is a true movie star.
So Jolie, we've never covered before. Apparently Nicole Kidman was originally going to play Jane, and that would have been fine casting.
They really wanted her, yeah.
She's a great actress. She's probably, well, she is better than Jolie, but she dropped out, so then Pitt dropped out. Then they got Jolie, and he came back in. And ironically, I'm sure he didn't say, well, I want to get together with her and then leave my wife. I'm sure that's not what it was. But then when he met her and the chemistry and everything, then it became that whole thing. And Kidman, I don't know, could have played the physicality of this character, even though Jolie is a bit of a pipe cleaner. She has big boobs in this movie, but she also has those, well, I guess those arms. She beat me up, let's face it. So she's believable enough. She won the Oscar for Girl Interrupted in 1999. By the way, Jennifer Aniston, at some point after the Brad Pitt breakup, started dating Vince Vaughn, and I forget what the timeline was, but they were the next year in the breakup together, and that was a very big hit, especially for a comedy, because around 2006, comedies were still able to be top 10 hits or top 20 hits. I think that was at least the top 20 in 2006 at the box office, but you don't see that anymore. And Vince Vaughn's in this, and we've never covered him before either, but I have, without you, 3 times on Scoring at the Movies. He was in sports movies, Dodgeball, where he's the lead, Fighting with My Family, where he's a supporting player, and also Rudy, where he's got a very small part. Adam Brody, we've covered him 3 times before. He was in The Ring. I don't remember who he was in that, but he's in The Ring, the horror movie. He must be somebody's boyfriend. Huh. Maybe he's one of the young girls' boyfriends. He's in Promising Young Woman, and then he's the director in American Fiction that wants to make a movie out of that book.
He has been the lead in plenty of movies, but he's always at his best.
Character roles, yeah.
When he's like 4th or 5th
Alec Baldwin type of guy.
Cast sheet,
he's
right?
a great-looking dude, but he probably should be more of a character actor.
And he's so funny. I don't know how well you remember him in Thank You for Smoking. He is so funny in that movie. That's full of really funny performances. He loves to play a villain. American Fiction, another, I guess not a villain, but like a piece of dirt, right? Dirtbag, yeah. But recently he's had
nobody
a huge
wants
bump.
this.
Nobody wants this, yeah. That was probably the biggest hit since the OC he's had.
He and Kristen Bell, I love the two of them in that show. I didn't laugh that much at that. We watched that on the plane on the way to our vacation back in January. We saw most of it that way, I think. I liked it a lot. I didn't laugh that much.
It's a great
but their
plane show.
chemistry is very much like Pitt and Jolie in this movie. Outstanding chemistry.
Oh, you know, a movie that he starred in that was underrated and not that many people saw it, and it's Canadian, Kid Detective.
Kerry Washington is Jolie's or Jane's second in command. She's one of the major players in this movie. Really, it's not that many people beyond the two, really, if you think about it. It's not like Brody, Washington, or even... Well, Vaughn has the most screen time of anybody other than Pitt and Jolie, but it's not even that much for him. She was in Django Unchained. Of course, we covered that many years ago. I think that's it for us covering her, though. But she's done a lot of TV, including a series that you loved and watched for, I guess, the whole run, Scandal.
You think these two have on-screen chemistry? Mm-mm.
Tony Goldwyn.
Whoo! Her and Tony Goldwyn in Scandal? Man alive.
Chris Weitz, he's the neighbor. They take his SUV. He acts occasionally, but he's also mostly best known, really, as a writer and director of About a Boy, a couple years before this with Hugh Grant, and then he produced American Pie. Michelle Monaghan has a very small role as a computer hacker in this. She plays Tom Cruise's wife in the Mission Impossible movies. What would it be? 3 and one of the other ones as well. I'd love to see those two actually play husband and wife in a bona fide movie rather than maybe a third of the movie, or maybe more than a third of the movie. But she's, like Jolie, ironically enough, better than her resume. Angelina Jolie is very talented, but her resume is not. We said before, all the splats, right? And I agree with a lot of those splats. She's not had that great a resume.
Huge hits either. She's had her.
Well, yeah, but we're talking about Kung Fu Panda. We're talking about. I think Wanted did well. I don't remember. I think Salt did pretty well, and this obviously worldwide did well. She's been in plenty of big things, but what is her signature movie? She's not had the best agent, I don't think, and that's really true about Michelle Monaghan too.
I remember hearing once that part of it was that she refused to work with Weinstein. It's not even just that she may have been blackballed. It's more that all the projects that he's associated with, he worked on a lot of great
Especially
prestige.
back at this point.
Yeah, he was making like a lot of great films. Yeah. So she knew what was going on. She just refused to play ball, and so she didn't get any of those big films.
If we've covered it before, I don't think so. I didn't see anything on her resume. But we have covered this guy 9 times now. 9 times, even though it's just a voiceover role here. And that's Keith David. He's in The Thing, Platoon, Reality Bites, Armageddon, There's Something About Mary, Franks and Beans, Requiem for a Dream, Nope, and American Fiction with Adam Brody. They don't share a scene together, but they're both in that. And he's also in The Replacements, which Chris and I covered on Scoring at the Movies. William Fichtner's also in Armageddon, but they don't share a scene together either because he's on the asteroid and David is, of course, on Earth. He's the chief of staff, I think, or something, the defense secretary, whatever, chief of staff, I think he is. But Fichtner's the voice of the therapist. He's done plenty of things. He's in Dark Knight as well. Oh, you stole from the mob. You'll pay, Joker. Now you're going to die. Well, actually, no, the guy doesn't die there, does he? It's a smoke bomb. And then Angela Bassett, like I said, is the voice of John's boss. We've covered her in a few things, especially Boys in the Hood, which I saw again recently. I think on Netflix. I was at work. I haven't seen it in a little while. Still love that movie. We talked about it last week because it made both of our lists.
That's right.
Not Quite 100. We put that on our list. Doug Liman directed. He worked on The Bourne Identity and also Edge of Tomorrow, which is probably my favorite of all of his movies. Bourne's pretty good. I like it more the more I've seen it, actually. And also did Swingers with Vince Vaughn, which is probably one reason why Vince Vaughn's in this, doing this Vince Vaughn thing, the fast talking, I don't get out of bed for less than $500,000, because they hire him to kill the two of them for $400,000 each, but nope, not enough money. But he's also a friend, a legit friend of Brad Pitt. So another thing that doesn't get paid off is that they see him in a diner, and I'm not going to kill you, but go steal that Dan's guy, and then you never see him again.
Yeah.
But Vaughn probably was cast because of the association with Liman on Swingers, which was, I think Vaughn, yeah, it was his breakout. Because he got to be in Jurassic Park 2, or The Lost World Jurassic Park, because Spielberg saw Swingers and said, I want him in that movie, and then his career just went from there. Vaughn's did. Simon Kinberg wrote this. He mostly writes X-Men movies, or has written X-Men movies in his career, but he also produced The Martian, which will come up in 2 weeks. Later this month, that will be a podcast. There were a ton of producers, not surprisingly for a big movie. Was it 5 of them I've got here? Akiva Goldsman won an Oscar for writing A Beautiful Mind. Lucas Foster was one of them, too. He was involved with Ford versus Ferrari. That's the racing movie with Christian Bale and Matt Damon. Eric McLeod produced Wag the Dog, too, and we do see a clip of Wag the Dog. No, sorry, it's when they have the Jeopardy clue, when Jolie's going in to the hotel to kill the guy, to snap the guy's neck, and then rappel down.
Oh, right.
It's a clue about Wag the Dog, and it's probably partly because they got McLeod producing this. I'm guessing that's an association. I don't know. Arnon Milchan often works with Brad Pitt as well. He was one of the producers on stage when they won for 12 Years a Slave. Pitt won that night, but Milchan didn't. He was an executive producer. And then Patrick Wachsberger, who produced Coda. The movie is 239-1. We saw it on Disney+, although I only realized about halfway in that Disney Plus shows this in the 1:85 ratio. It's also on Crave. I probably should have tried that. Maybe they would have shown the right aspect ratio. I don't think we missed that much. It's not like it's pan and scan. You really notice when a movie's 4:3 and it should be either one of the aspect ratios that are wider, but it was the wrong one, and that bothers me. Mohan Bazelli shot this. He also shot The Ring, so Adam Brody saw his face with the viewfinder a few times, and Hairspray, one of my favorite musicals of all time, and also California with a young Brad Pitt, way back in 1993. The cutter, Michael Tronick, cut Hairspray, so he and Bazelli worked on the same movie, and then Days of Thunder and Remember the Titans, which Chris and I covered on Scoring at the Movies. The composer, John Powell, has 2 nominations in his career, Oscar nominations. One of those was for Wicked earlier this year, but he also composed for Shrek, The Bourne Identity for Doug Liman, and United 93, which we covered, was that last year? Maybe a couple years ago?
What a diverse resume.
Exactly, yeah. So what do you think of the work of Bazelli and Tronick and Powell and Kinberg and the producers and Liman himself?
This is a really well-made film. Just that top of the
Boom,
line.
boom, boom, boom.
It's such a proper studio film. They definitely dot the I's, cross the T's, and do everything right. Part of what makes it watchable, I'm sure, is just, you know that they had pros on set in every job.
The scene where John's supposed to die, and I guess, how would she have died? They're supposed to both die in that mission, but he was definitely going to die. She did shoot him. But then after he gets up, oh my God, I got shot in the chest, and I'm okay. Gigantic explosion. There are a lot of bigger ones in this, including their house. They have no house to go back to at the end of the movie. But that explosion is enormous as well, out in the desert. What happens next? Well, they die because this ain't over. Yeah. It's a nice payoff and it's a nice joke that they end the movie with them in the therapist office, but it really does feel like there was at least one scene missing, unless you want to go, nope. That's my excuse. It's Ralphie. There's no resolution to the fact that their bosses want them dead. I'm not really cutting slack on that, but you are cutting slack on that.
It's just sloppy.
Yeah. All right, then, last thoughts on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, our first Jolie movie and our, 10th, I guess I said, Brad Pitt movie. They got together on this movie, and the star power was something else. That's what sells it. That's what made it as good as it was then and even now.
I would never discourage somebody from watching this movie if they were curious about it or wanted to revisit it. And when you just want to go to a movie to watch Brad Pitt and Angelina make out, their screen presence is enough to make it worth the ticket price.
Including their dance when he removes all the weapons and she does the same thing to him. Yeah. And she does cry, by the way. She sheds a tear when she thinks that he's died. Mm-hmm. In the car accident, right? When she drives off and then he's in the car and he has a little joke. What does he say? Oh, no, or something, as he looks like he's about to go off to his death. And she goes to dinner without him. What is she going there for?
Just to drink her sorrows away,
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
And then you see a tear down her cheek, but then he's alive after all, somehow, because this is Wile E. Coyote. Looking at these two gorgeous creatures for 2 hours was like watching porn without having an orgasm. Especially her for me, but I would never deny him with his shaved head, too, by the way. And Brad Pitt's known for his hair. Wow.
Yeah, he's never really been my guy, exactly, even before his reputation spoiled it for me, but there's no denying. I definitely have the hots for him in Fight Club.
But speaking of hair, the giant explosions don't even muss up her perfect hair at any point.
No.
I think the hair person, we always see that in movies, right? If you ever see a behind-the-scenes thing where it's cut, and right away, with her, they were, unless it's a wig, they were right on top of that immediately, more than even most movies are.
She's so beautiful.
And her hair is so perfect. All in all, I'd still say 3 stars, like soft 3 stars. I gave it that at the time I saw it in the theater, long before I met you. Helps that Liman does a great job with a tricky tone. I'm not sure he fully pulls it off now that I've talked about it with you for an hour here. But he makes it a fun time at the movies, and people are being killed left, right, and center, and that's not easy to do, to balance that tone. He mostly does it. Mostly dead. Edge of Tomorrow does do it better, because that's also fairly funny, with Cruise coming back to life so often, and all the things that go on in that movie. And they're going to make a sequel to that one. They talked about making a sequel to this, but it didn't develop, and of course, even if they were still together, if nothing ever happened with their marriage, it's way too late now, I think. Unless you want to make a movie when they're in their 60s, that'd be maybe fun, but then why would they still be agents in their 60s?
I know Hollywood keeps finding ways to make sequels to movies, no matter what the barriers are, so if it weren't for the fact that there's no way you're going to get these 2 actors on screen again, they would do it.
They also were in... Oh, I didn't mention this before. She directed a lot of things, or has directed a lot of things, too. And they're not hits, but some of them are... Well, they're always meaningful movies, at least to her. By the Sea, with the 2 of them as characters struggling. Right? I don't remember that movie that well.
Just infertility, I think, is the problem. But it's not a great movie.
But she's made 2 or 3...
Great looking.
Yeah, and she's made 2 or 3 movies as a director that are more about big issues. Unbroken, I think it's called. Which I thought was pretty solid. And In the Land of Honey or something like that.
Milk and Honey, yeah, something like that.
So that was how we saw Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'll be back next week, but Bev won't. That's our one Monday off every month, and my task on the 18th will be to cover a film starring Pitt's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood buddy, Leonardo DiCaprio, as I break down Leo and Kate Winslet struggling their way through life as a privileged couple in Revolutionary Road. Clark, here you go. You asked for it. Next week, doing that. But since we don't do coming attractions trivia questions on my solo shows, we will preview the episode the Ellises will be posting together in 2 weeks. And that is The Martian. I mentioned that before. Brad Pitt's buddy from the Ocean's movies, Matt Damon. But my question is not about Matty D. It's about the director, Ridley Scott. So, the coming attractions trivia question. This is elaborate. Don't do the work. You don't have to unless you really want to. By my count, 14 of Ridley Scott's 34 big screen movies have been nominated for 44 Oscars in total. And 7 of those nominations were for The Martian. They didn't win any. And all the nominations have come in all sorts of categories. So which category is the most common in Ridley Scott's canon? Visual effects, production design, sound, acting, maybe Best Picture, or is it even Ridley Scott himself for Best Director?
All right, so for the answer to that question, tune in 2 weeks for our episode about The Martian. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to favorite or subscribe. There are hundreds of episodes available for you to check out. If you like us and you'd like to support the podcast, the best way to do that is by leaving us a rating and a review. You can also support us by going to sparkplug.coffee/HYES, where you can find freshly roasted premium coffee, and that HYES will get you a one-time 20% discount. You can find us on YouTube. Our channel is at HYES Ellis, and we'd love to hear from you. There's a few ways to find us, starting with Twitter. I'm at Bev Ellis Ellis, and Ryan is at MovieFiend51. We're also on Blue Sky. You can find us as Bev Ellis Ellis and Ryan-Ellis. And our email address is haveyouvserseenpodcast@gmail.com.
It's time for Mr. and Mrs. Ellis to say goodnight.
And cut.
And not shoot at each other. Maybe tomorrow. Not today.
He suspects nothing.